this conversation, we're talking to Laura from the Web Kitchen. Laura is a website designer, and she and the team from the TWK took our brand identity that we created for Mansfield College, Oxford, and created the most amazing website from there. It was really interesting to kind of hand over what we had done for Mansfield and see them kind of turn it into a digital experience. You can have a look at the website. It's now live. I will put the link down below, but do watch this interview. It's really interesting. I found it so fascinating to hear about what their process was like, taking our kind of concepts for the brand and then making that work in a digital space. So what were the most helpful things that we provided to you, or what was most helpful in understanding how to kind of take the brand forward?
So from our perspective, it was extremely interesting being able to see your brand concept document that you created. A lot of the time we're just given brands by clients and it's just a brand guidelines. We
Yeah.
only see what colours to use, what fonts to use, and maybe a few graphics that are in there. But by you providing us with that, it really helped us to understand the decisions that you made earlier on and
Yeah.
where certain elements came from. Like being able to see your thinking laid out on paper from the early mood board stage to the final brand pillars was really helpful. And it helped us to understand the unique selling points of the college and really emphasize to us where you position them within the market. And so it was really clear instantly that we needed to position them as a really warm and welcoming environment. And so when people first land on the website, they needed to see this diverse community and rich heritage around the college.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think it is sometimes hard to put across all the elements and all the nuances and all kind of the feelings that we've kind of identified as part of our process with the client, just in a brand guideline document. So
Yeah, definitely.
found that helpful, and because we'd worked with them on the editorial side as well, so with the tone of
Yeah.
all of that, digging into that,
Ah, nice.
that was super helpful for us as well, because we could work on both alongside each other. Yeah, oh, that's really, yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that was really, really helpful. We never get to see the behind the scenes process, I guess, that the branding agencies go through.
Yeah.
And by you doing that, we knew immediately that the shapes were such an important and unique part to the college that, of course, they had to be at the forefront of our website concept.
Yeah. Oh, it's been really cool to see how you've interpreted it. And when Jane showed me the kind of mock-ups and the video of the what you've done, I was really excited. I thought, and it was so interesting from my side to see kind of what we'd come up with and then a completely different team and how they interpreted it, and kind of I thought it was really interesting because you kind of taken some of the ideas that we'd had and then reshaped them into something else, um, which is really like it's extra creative brains just adding more and more layers.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear that you were happy with what we did. It's
Yeah.
always tricky to know, isn't it? You don't want someone to like rip up what you've worked on.
No, I didn't. I don't think I thought you would do that. No, but it looked really nice, and I'm excited to see it launch.
So
Right.
we do some extra mood boarding as well, aside from the mood boarding that you've done, but we do a bit more web-based inspiration.
Yeah.
And we look at, say, animations and interactions, little bits like that. Look at any particularly nice, maybe image galleries, team page designs, any inspiration really that we can get our hands on, even stuff from Pinterest, that packaging or bits like that that might be of inspiration.
Yeah.
Just to give us a sense of how we can push the branding on a bit further.
Mhm.
In web design, you need to think about things in a more interactive way.
Yeah.
And you need a very flexible brand that you can work with so that you can create foreground and background elements that all like collaboratively work together,
Yeah.
and allow for that sense of animation and impact on the page.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think there's a whole bunch of different considerations when it comes to creating something that people are going to interact with, as opposed to the brand guidelines or something from,
Yeah.
or which I'm really interested in. So you mentioned animations, things like, do you consider things like transitions from one page to another, or from one kind of section to another? Is that all part of?
Yeah, exactly. So regarding that animation site, that's very much still work in progress on Mansfield at the minute. And whilst it's in build, obviously, whilst you're designing the website, you are thinking about those subtle touches.
Yeah.
And with some websites, we take it like full blown fancy and like things flying in across the page, like bubbles bursting and images like exploding, stuff like that. But with Mansfield, they are a very prestigious college. Their brand already screamed so much personality that we want to keep it very subtle.
Right.
We don't want things bouncing across the page because it's just not serious enough. Like they do like appeal to a very specific audience. And because they want to come across as so warm and welcoming to people, we need there to be that subtlety on the page. Quite soft animations and transitions. Maybe as you scroll down the website, things might parallax a bit, give a bit of depth on the page and movement. And yeah, just ease people into the site. We don't want to overpower them with information as well. There's already a lot to take in. There's lots of colours, patterns, objects. Yeah, you don't want too much overload.
Oh, and that's really interesting to hear, because it is a very colourful brand, and that was one of the things that almost like everything hinges around in a way, doesn't it? Because we've a lot of brands, you wouldn't have that many colours in it. And obviously, as you know, the reason we did that was partly to put across that warmth and that welcomingness, but also the diversity.
The diversity, yeah. So we absolutely love what you did with the Mansfield brand.
Amazing.
You thought of literally everything. It was really nice to have such a variety of styles to work with. The color palette's so flexible. The typeface is really nice and decorative. Like sometimes we've used that at a really big scale, so that then we can just have that standalone typographic element by itself that just has a lot more impact than like a cluttered design that's got tiny icons everywhere and then big chunk of paragraph text. And so we just think about the different elements that make up a brand. So the patterns, the fonts, the colours, and how we can use those in different ways across the website to keep that visual interest there, really.
I think one of the things you guys did was you took, because with the shapes that we've designed to kind of resonate with some of the architectural features of the college. I know you kind of then expanded the use of those into some little patterns, which was really interesting to see, because I'd only used them in my concept as kind of image frames or quite large, and then you had taken it that one step further, so to make like a texture with it, which I thought was really clever.
When you design websites, you have to think of everything really responsively. So the website might be viewed at a massive scale on big desktop screen. Even during a presentation, people might present the website itself, which again would be even bigger scale. But at the same time, it can be scaled down to a really tiny mobile screen. And so that's something we have to consider like quite a lot with our designs. And whilst we loved like the variety of shapes that you'd given us, we needed a very subtle way that we could incorporate those as well, that was very flexible. And so our solution to that was basically to use them as background patterns within masked shapes themselves. And these can then be scaled down and change shape very easily. So sometimes we use them to frame images on the website or to frame specific bits of content. When this then scales down to mobile, this can be like halved in size, and we could just use it as like a thin strip down the side of a page rather than taking up the full width of a page. And we considered using the shapes like very, very graphically and at much bigger scale. But an issue we had was you can't always control how it scales down on mobile. And sometimes those shapes became like full background colours. Really necessarily want to have a strip of yellow, a strip of green, a strip of red, or like bang, bang, bang in a row. And so using these patterns, it just created that subtlety on the website and still injected that personality. But at smaller scale, it means that the content can still speak for itself and not become overpowered by everything else on the page.
Yeah,